Hi guys, in this video I'm going to explain you the first techniques for working with the selection tools. And to do that, the first tools that I'll be showing you are the rectangular marquee and the elliptical marquee tool. They are both part of the same group and their quick key is M. Okay, we can see it right here. If one day you have a question on how to use that tool, remember, if you leave your cursor on top of that tool, Photoshop will give you like a quick video on how to do that. It's like an animated GIF of that specific tool, okay? So let's get started. I already placed a couple of images here in my document, and since we are working with destructive editing, remember we need to convert our smart objects into rasterized layers. So to do that, I'm going to do right click over the layer's name, and I'm going to choose the option rasterize layer to convert it, okay? And that's it. Now, does this tool work? I'm going to start first with the rectangular marquee tool, and remember that every time you click on a tool, different options appear here in the options bar, okay? So for my selection tool, my rectangular marquee, if I want to create a perfect square, remember you need to press shift, okay? These blocks kind of the proportions of my tool, so I only get perfect squares every time. This works with the elliptical marquee as well. If I don't press shift, then those proportions get unlocked, so I can freely create another rectangle, like the size that I want, okay? So with this specific texture, I want to create like a frame, okay? So let's learn how to do that. So the first option that you see here is to create a new selection. So I'm just going to create one, super simple. The second tool that you find here, the second option, is to add selection to what I already have selected. So if I do a square over here, but then I want to put another one smaller over here, I can click on the second option and I can choose another part, and when I release my clicking, those two selections will be joined. The third option allows me to subtract from the selection that I already have. So if I click on it and then create another one over here, then only this part over here is selected, but this one was removed or subtracted from my selection, okay? And the last one creates an intersection. So for example, if I have a rectangle over here, and then I click on the fourth option and create a selection, the only thing that will remain is the part that was intersected. So when I release my clicking, only that part will be selected, okay? And here are some other tips for working with these tools. If I create a shape and I want to add selection, instead of clicking in this option, I can press shift. You can see how the plus sign there appears. So I can press shift to add more to my selection. If I want to subtract from the selection, I press alt to get rid of that selection, okay? So that's a quick tip for you to work better with your selection tools. Now, what happens when I already have my selection? In this case, since I want to create a frame, I'm going to select it something like this, and then I'm going to press alt because I only want to keep this part that I already selected, okay? So if I press delete, then the thing that was selected is going to be removed. Since I want the opposite, I need to invert my selection to tell Photoshop that I want to keep what I have selected and that the program should delete the other part. The shortcut for to invert a selection is Shift Command I. So as you can see, there are more marching ants here around my canvas. So when I press delete, everything will be erased except for what I have selected, okay? Now, before you do anything else, you need to remove the selection so then you can manipulate the object that remained. So the shortcut for deselecting is Command D, okay, Command D. Now with my move tool, which I can also activate with the letter B, I can use the transform controls to move my object around, okay? Now, let's move on to let me go back, let me undo all this using my history panel, of course. I'm going to go back all the way here to where I started my, well, not there, where I started my document, and I'm going to choose the purple texture again. Let me rasterize it. There we go. Now for the second tool, the elliptical marquee tool, it works the same, but with this one, I'm going to explain you another option, the feather option, okay? This feather works, it creates soft edges or blurry edges, okay? Let me give you an example. I'm going to create a perfect circle over here. I'm going to create a copy of that circle. To do that, I pressed Command J. And then over my purple texture layer, I am going to change now the feather. I will put 20 for this example, but you can practice with these values, okay? And then I'm going to create another selection, and then I will press Command J so I can keep the original layer and bring the selection to a different layer. So as you can see, this is the difference between not having feather and having feather. The cool thing about the feathering is that if you have an image behind it, it blends better with your background. So this depends on the effect that you want to give to your selection, okay? So that was the introduction to the selection tools. And if you have a question, please let me know.